Zaxthul stared at the data screen, his 4 eyes blinking in disbelief. There had to be a mistake. He tapped the screen with a slender gray finger, refreshing the planetary classification data, but the result remained unchanged. Earth, Class, 14 Deathworld. This cannot be correct, he muttered to himself, his voice a soft whistle through his breathing slits. No sentient species could evolve on a Class 14 planet. The small office aboard the Federation's science vessel Celestial Explorer hummed with the quiet sounds of life support systems. Zaxthul had been a xenobiologist for over 30 cycles, studying life forms across the galaxy, but never had he encountered a Class 14 world with intelligent life. He called out to the ship's computer. "Computer, verify classification of Sol 3, designation Earth." The computer's calm voice responded. "Verification complete. Sol 3, designation Earth, maintains Class 14 Deathworld classification based on the following parameters: extreme tectonic activity, severe weather patterns, high gravity, robust microbial presence, dangerous fauna, varied toxins and pathogens, and radiation exposure." Zaxthul's skin paled from its normal blue to a light gray. As a Loraxian from a peaceful Class 2 world with no natural disasters and minimal environmental hazards, he could barely imagine the horrors that must exist on Earth. His communication panel chimed. "Senior xenobiologist Zaxthul, your presence is requested in the command center. The Earth vessel has initiated contact." Gathering his courage, Zaxthul left his office and glided through the curved corridors of the Celestial Explorer. Other crew members moved aside respectfully. As the leading expert on new species, he would be central to this first contact. Meanwhile, aboard the Earth vessel EAS Horizon, Commander Lisa Freeman reviewed the mission briefing one last time. At 42, she had spent 20 years in Earth's space program, but nothing had prepared her for becoming humanity's first ambassador to alien life. "Are we ready for this, Jack?" she asked her second-in-command. Jack Miller nodded, his expression serious beneath his short brown hair. "As ready as we'll ever be, Commander. The crew is prepared and Dr. Wright has the biological samples organized for the exchange." Lisa stood up from her chair, smoothing down her blue uniform. "Humanity has dreamed of this moment for centuries. Let's make sure we don't mess it up." The bridge of the EAS Horizon buzzed with quiet excitement. Earth's first faster-than-light vessel had been operational for only 3 months when they detected the signals from the Federation ship. Now, after 2 weeks of careful approach and basic communication, they were about to have their first face-to-face meeting with alien life. Dr. Karen Wright entered the bridge, carrying her medical kit. "My team is ready, Commander. We've prepared the airlock for the meeting according to the specifications they sent." "Any concerns about biological contamination?" Lisa asked. Karen shook her head. "They seem much more worried about our germs than we should be about theirs. According to their messages, they'll be wearing full protective suits." Jack laughed. "Seems a bit extreme, doesn't it? Different biology, different concerns." Karen replied with a shrug. "We have immune systems adapted to Earth. They don't." In the command center of the Celestial Explorer, Zaxthul joined the ship's commander, a tall willowy being named Velnax, from a low-gravity world. "The Deathworlders approach," Velnax said, gesturing to the view screen where the Earth ship grew larger. "I must admit I am uneasy." "As am I," Zaxthul admitted. "I've been reviewing their data package. Did you know their planet experiences thousands of ground tremors every day? They call the major ones earthquakes. Their continents literally float on molten rock." Velnax's tendrils curled in disgust. "Barbaric. How could intelligent life evolve in such conditions?" "That's not even the worst of it," Zaxthul continued, unable to keep the horrified fascination from his voice. "Their atmosphere regularly discharges massive electrical events called lightning. The temperature on their planet can range from freezing to boiling, depending on location and season. And the microorganisms. Their world is saturated with microbial life. It's in their soil, their water, their air, even inside their bodies," the communication officer interrupted. "Commander, The Earth vessel has matched our orbit and requests docking procedure initiation. Belnax straightened to his full height. Very well. Commence docking protocols. Zax Thule, prepare your team. Full decontamination procedures and environmental suits are mandatory. As the massive docking mechanisms engaged, creating a secure connection between the two vessels, Zaxathul hurried to the xenobiology lab where his team waited. Remember, he instructed the 5 nervous scientists, these humans evolved on a planet that would kill any of us within minutes of exposure. Their biology is robust beyond anything we've encountered. They can withstand radiation levels that would sterilize most worlds. Their skeletal structures are reinforced with calcium deposits to counter their planet's crushing gravity. Most disturbing of all, they host entire ecosystems of microorganisms inside their bodies, and consider this normal. One of the younger scientists, Tixra, asked, "How do they survive?" "That," Zaxthul replied, "is what we're here to discover." Aboard the EAS Horizon, Lisa, Jack, and Karen led a small delegation toward the airlock. The crew had been chosen carefully: Steve Rodriguez, communications specialist, Ben Harris, engineer, and Maria Garcia, cultural attaché. "Remember," Lisa said as they walked, "we represent all of humanity today. Let's show them our best selves." The airlock cycled, pressures equalized, and the door slid open to reveal 6 aliens in what looked like sealed environmental suits. The humans had expected strange appearances, but the sight still took their breath away. The aliens were tall, blue-skinned beings with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern and bodies that seemed almost too slender to support themselves. Zaxthul stepped forward, his voice coming through a translator device. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am senior xenobiologist Zaxthul of the Galactic Federation. We welcome you to the interstellar community." Lisa smiled and stepped forward, extending her hand before remembering that the gesture might not translate. She quickly lowered it. "Thank you for your welcome. I am Commander Lisa Freeman of the Earth Alliance ship Horizon. We come in peace and friendship." Zaxthul stared at the humans, his scientific curiosity momentarily overcoming his fear. They were standing there, in simple cloth coverings, completely exposed to the environment. No protective suits, no breathing apparatus. Just bare skin exposed to potential contaminants, and they seemed completely at ease. "You are not wearing protective gear," he observed, his voice betraying his shock. Lisa looked confused. "Was that a requirement? Your messages mentioned that our atmospheres were compatible." "Compatible, yes," Zaxthul said, "but not identical. Our scans show your ship contains over 10,000 species of microorganisms. You carry them on your skin, in your airways, in your digestive systems." Karen stepped forward. "That's normal for us. We have symbiotic relationships with many microorganisms. They help us digest food and protect us from harmful pathogens." The aliens visibly recoiled, and Zaxathul felt his lunch shift uncomfortably in his digestive sac. These humans weren't just from a death world. They were walking ecosystems of potentially deadly microorganisms, and they seemed proud of it. At that moment, Zaxthul knew with certainty the Class 14 designation wasn't a mistake. If anything, it might be an underestimation. "We have much to learn from each other," he said finally, maintaining his professional composure despite his growing horror. "Perhaps we could start by exchanging basic biological data?" As the two groups moved toward the conference room, Zaxthul couldn't help but wonder, what other terrors had these Deathworlders normalized? And what would it mean for the galaxy now that they had left their deadly cradle and reached for the stars? The conference room aboard the EAS Horizon hummed with tension as the humans and aliens sat across from each other. The aliens' environmental suits made soft whirring sounds as their air filtration systems worked overtime. Zaxathul couldn't stop, staring at the humans who seemed completely at ease despite being in the presence of extraterrestrial life. "So you're saying you actually eat things that are still alive?" Zaxthul asked, his voice pitched higher than usual through his translator. "Doctor," Karen Wright nodded, placing a small container on the table. "We call them probiotics. Many of our foods contain beneficial bacteria, Yogurt, for example, has millions of live cultures that help our digestion. Two of the junior xenobiologists abruptly stood and moved to the far corner of the room. Zax Thule couldn't blame them. The concept was horrifying. And these bacteria live inside you? Permanently? He asked. We have entire ecosystems within us, Karen explained, warming to her subject. Trillions of microorganisms live in our gut, on our skin, in our mouths. We call it our microbiome. Jack Miller grinned. Don't forget fermentation, beer, wine, cheese, sourdough bread, all made possible by microorganisms. Zax Thule's skin paled to a light gray. You intentionally consume products created by the metabolic processes of microbes? For pleasure? Don't knock it till you try it, Steve Rodriguez said with a laugh. Though I guess you can't with those suits. One of the xenobiologists, a younger female named Mex Pora, leaned forward despite her obvious discomfort. What about your planet's atmospheric discharge phenomena? Our scans detected thousands of these lightning events during our approach. Thunderstorms, Lisa explained. They happen when different parts of our atmosphere build up electrical charges. The lightning equalizes those charges. And these discharges don't kill you? Velnax asked from the head of the table. They can if you're directly hit, Ben Harris said with a shrug. But it's pretty rare. We have lightning rods and other protection systems. Zax Thule noted how casually they discussed such deadly phenomena. On his homeworld, even mild static electricity was considered dangerous. What about recreation? Mex's Pora asked. How do humans spend leisure time? Maria Garcia smiled. Many of us enjoy outdoor activities, hiking, swimming, camping, skiing. Swimming? Tixra questioned. You willingly immerse yourselves in unfiltered water bodies? Of course, Maria replied. Oceans, lakes, rivers, it's refreshing. Zax Thule's translator couldn't find the right words for his reaction. The idea of voluntarily entering natural water, with all its unpredictable currents, temperature variations, and microbial content, was beyond comprehension. And camping means, he finally managed to ask. We temporarily live in the wilderness, Jack explained. Sleep under the stars, cook over fire, reconnect with nature. With the predatory animals? Velnax asked, voice strained. Sometimes they're around, Lisa said. But they usually leave people alone. Basic precautions are enough. The meeting continued for another hour, with each human revelation causing more distress among the alien delegation. When Karen casually mentioned that humans regularly consumed substances that were technically poisonous in small doses for pleasure, like caffeine and alcohol, Tixra had to be escorted from the room. Later, in the Federation ship's medical bay, Zax Thule reviewed the biological data the humans had shared. His colleague, Medical Officer Jivzor, joined him. These readings can't be correct, Jivzor said, examining the displays. According to this, humans can survive blood loss of up to 40% of total volume. And look at their bone density, Zax Thule added. 3 times denser than ours, with self-healing capabilities we can only dream of. Their immune system is the most aggressive I've ever seen, Jivzor continued. It doesn't just defend, it hunts. Meanwhile, aboard the EAS Horizon, the human crew gathered in the mess hall, discussing their first impressions of the aliens. Did you see how they reacted when I mentioned swimming? Maria asked, laughing. You'd think I said we bathe in acid. Steve nodded, sipping his coffee. I'm more worried about communication. Their language has subtleties our translators might. Miss Dr. Wright, a voice came over the intercom. Emergency call from the Federation vessel. Medical assistance requested immediately. Karen rushed to the communication station. On the screen, a panicked Zax Thule appeared. Doctor, one of our researchers has fallen ill after analyzing a human tissue sample. Our medical treatments aren't working. Can you help? Within 30 minutes, Karen and her medical team were aboard the Federation vessel, being led through sterile corridors to the medical bay. They wore the protective suits the aliens had provided, though Karen found them cumbersome. In the medical bay, a young alien lay on an examination table, skin turned a sickly yellow, breathing shallow. This is researcher Pax Lore, Zaxthul explained. He was examining a human skin cell sample when his protective glove tore. Now his immune system is overreacting to unfamiliar proteins. Karen examined the alien with her equipment. It looks like anaphylactic shock, similar to severe allergic reactions in humans. She prepared a modified antihistamine injection. This should help, but I need to adjust the dosage for his body mass. As she worked, Zaxthul observed with fascination. You seem unconcerned by this crisis. Medical emergencies are routine on Earth, Karen explained, administering the injection. Our hospitals handle thousands daily. Because your world constantly tries to kill you? Zaxthul asked. Karen looked up, surprised. I never thought of it that way, but I guess Earth can be dangerous. We've just adapted. They watched as Paxlore's breathing stabilized. Karen continued monitoring his vital signs. Your casual attitude toward danger, Zaxthul said quietly. Is that also an adaptation? Karen considered this. Maybe. When threats are common, you either learn to handle them or you don't survive. Human history is full of overcoming environmental challenges. Yet despite evolving on a death world, your species developed art, music, literature, Zaxthul noted. You could have become merely efficient killers focused only on survival. Survival isn't living, Karen replied. We want more than just to exist. Later, as Paxlore recovered and the medical crisis passed, Zaxthul returned to his quarters. He accessed his research terminal and began recording. Update to xenobiological profile. Human, Class 14 Deathworld species. Initial observations suggest humans may be the most biologically resilient sentient species yet encountered. Their physical adaptations to Earth's hostile environment are impressive, but perhaps, more remarkable, is their psychological resilience. They have normalized dangers that would traumatize most sentient beings. He paused, considering his next words carefully. Most concerning of all, they seem unaware of their own extraordinary nature. To them, living on a planet with constant tectonic activity, lethal atmospheric discharges, extreme temperature variations, and ubiquitous microorganisms is simply normal. I begin to understand why Earth received its classification. The question now becomes, what does it mean for the galaxy that these Deathworld humans have joined the interstellar community? Zaxthul closed his log and stared out his viewport at the blue-green planet below. Earth looked deceptively peaceful from orbit, its swirling clouds hiding the countless dangers beneath. Tomorrow he would join the human delegation for a tour of their vessel, and perhaps learn more about these fascinating, terrifying creatures who called a Class 14 Deathworld home. Zaxthul watched in silent horror as Ben Harris effortlessly lifted a heavy metal container that would have required at least 3 Loraxians to move. The human engineer didn't even seem to be straining. Where do you want this power coupling? Ben asked casually, holding the 80-kilogram unit as if it weighed nothing. Just set it down there, Zaxthul replied, trying to keep his voice steady. He was beginning to understand why humans had such dense musculature. On a high-gravity world like Earth, such strength would be necessary just to move around. It was the third day of cultural and scientific exchange between the ES Horizon and the Celestial Explorer. Today, Ben and Maria were helping the Federation engineers understand human technology, while Zaxthul observed their physical capabilities. Your strength is remarkable, Mexpora commented as Ben secured the coupling. Is it common among all humans? I'm actually just average, Ben said with a laugh. You should see professional athletes or weightlifters. They can lift hundreds of kilograms. Maria nodded. My brother can bench press 150 kilograms and he's not even a professional. Zaxthul's 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he made notes on his datapad. The Loraxians had evolved on a world with 1/3 of Earth's gravity. Their bodies were slender and light, adapted for efficiency rather than power. Human physiology seemed brutally over-engineered by comparison. And your endurance? He asked. How long can humans sustain physical activity? Depends on the activity, Maria replied. Elite marathon runners can maintain a fast pace for over 2 hours. Regular people might exercise for 30 minutes to an hour daily. Our records show some humans have run over 100 kilometers without stopping, Zach Thule said, consulting his notes. Is this accurate? Ultramarathons, Ben confirmed. Not everyone can do that, but yeah, it's a real thing. Mexpora looked faint, even through her environmental suit. Why would anyone do this voluntarily? Maria shrugged. Challenge? Fun? Some people enjoy pushing their limits. A sudden alarm blared through the Federation ship, cutting off their conversation. Red lights flashed in the corridor. Warning, structural integrity compromised in Section 7, announced the ship's computer. Gravity fluctuations detected. All personnel evacuate immediately. Zach Thule felt his heart's racing. Section A7 contains our primary gravitational stabilizers. If they fail... Before he could finish, Ben was already running toward the hazard with Maria close behind. Zach Thule and Mexpora followed at a distance, stunned by the humans' immediate response to danger. When they reached Section 7, the situation was dire. A power surge had damaged the gravity control systems, creating patches of increased and decreased gravity throughout the area. 3 Loraxian engineers were trapped in a high-gravity pocket, barely able to move. The backup systems should engage soon, one trapped engineer called out, but the main control panel needs manual reset. Ben assessed the situation quickly. The control panel is in that high-gravity zone. Your people can't reach it, but I can. Without waiting for approval, he moved into the area where gravity was nearly triple the ship's normal setting. Zach Thule watched in astonishment as the human pushed forward against forces that would crush a Loraxian's fragile bones. Ben's movements were slower. His breathing labored, but he continued steadily toward the control panel. Is this safe for him? Zach Thule asked Maria anxiously. Not really, she admitted. But it's not immediately lethal either. He can handle it for a few minutes. Ben reached the panel and began the reset sequence. His fingers seemed clumsy in the intense gravitational field, but he persisted. After what seemed like an eternity, the system chimed, and normal gravity gradually returned throughout the section. The trapped engineers collapsed in relief as they were freed from the high-gravity pocket. Medical teams rushed in to check for injuries. You risked your life, Zach Thule said to Ben as he staggered back, sweat pouring down his face. Ben shrugged, catching his breath. It wasn't that bad. Felt like carrying a couple of extra people on my back. Earth's gravity varies slightly depending on where you are anyway. Your planet's gravity varies? Mexpora asked incredulously. Only by tiny amounts, Maria explained. But yeah, it's not perfectly uniform. Later, in the ship's medical bay, Zach Thule reviewed the sensor readings of Ben's vital signs during the incident. The human's heart rate had increased, stress hormones had flooded his system, and his muscles had worked at near maximum capacity, yet he had described the experience as merely uncomfortable. Their pain threshold is extraordinary, Medical Officer Jivzor commented, examining the data, and their response to physical stress suggests they evolved expecting regular environmental challenges. It's not just their physical capabilities, Zach Thule replied thoughtfully. Did you notice how quickly they responded to the emergency? No hesitation, no panic, just immediate action. On the other side of the medical bay, Commander Lisa Freeman and Jack Miller had arrived to check on Ben and the injured Loraxian engineers. How are your people doing? Lisa asked Velnax, who was supervising the medical treatment. They will recover, the alien commander replied. But without your engineers' intervention, the gravity fluctuations could have caused severe structural damage to the ship. Jack looked around the medical bay with interest. Your medical technology is impressive. Different approach than ours, though. How so? Jivzor asked, joining the conversation. You seem to focus on preventative care and systemic support, Jack observed. Earth medicine often deals with trauma and emergency response. We get a lot of practice putting people back together after accidents. As if to prove his point, Dr. Karen Wright entered the medical bay, carrying her Earth medical kit. She had been summoned to consult on the injured engineers. On Earth, she explained as she examined a Loraxian with a fractured limb, we see fractures like this frequently. Sports injuries, vehicle accidents, Falls. Our bodies are designed to take damage and recover. Designed to take damage? Jivzor repeated, sounding appalled. Karen nodded. Our bones can actually become stronger after healing from a break, and our skin is constantly regenerating. Even major organs like our liver can regrow if partially damaged. As the humans continued their explanations, Zaxthul noticed how the Loraxian medical staff grew increasingly quiet. To them, the physical punishments that humans routinely survived seemed impossible. The day's events continued with a scheduled tour of the human vessel. Zaxthul and several other xenobiologists followed Lisa through the EAS horizon, noting the practical utilitarian design so different from the elegant curves of Federation architecture. In the ship's mess hall, they watched in fascination as the humans ate their evening meal. One dish in particular caught Zaxthul's attention. "What? Is that red substance Maria is consuming?" he asked Lisa. "Hot sauce," Lisa explained. "It's made from chili peppers, plants that produce capsaicin as a defense mechanism to prevent animals from eating them." Zaxthul's translator struggled momentarily. "You are eating a plant's defense toxin? Voluntarily?" "Many humans enjoy spicy food," Lisa said. "The burning sensation is pleasurable to us." "You find pain pleasurable?" Felnax asked, his voice rising in pitch. "Not all pain," Lisa clarified. "But certain kinds of mild discomfort, yes. It's hard to explain." As the day ended and the alien delegation prepared to return to their vessel, Zaxthul paused to make a final entry in his research log. Day 3 of human observation confirms initial findings regarding their physical adaptations. Their strength, endurance, and pain tolerance are far beyond Galactic Federation norms. Most disturbing is their psychological comfort with conditions that would traumatize most sentient species. They appear to have evolved not just to survive their Deathworld, but to thrive within its dangers. He glanced through the viewpoint at Earth, hanging like a blue gem in the darkness. "I am beginning to understand that the physical attributes of humans are only part of what makes them unique. Tomorrow, we will explore their psychological resilience. Perhaps the most terrifying adaptation of all for a species born on a Class 14 Deathworld." "You create these scenarios for entertainment?" Zaxthul asked, his voice barely above a whisper as he stared at the screen in the recreation room of the EAS horizon. Allison Taylor, the ship's cultural affairs officer, nodded. "We call them movies. This one is in the horror genre." On the screen, a human actor ran through a dark forest, pursued by a fictional monster. The musical score crescendoed dramatically as the creature gained ground. "But why?" Mexipora asked, her environmental suit sensors showing elevated stress readings. "Why would you purposely expose yourselves to simulated danger and fear?" Allison considered the question. "It's a safe way to experience excitement. The fear isn't real because we know it's just a story." Zaxthul turned all four eyes toward her. "You seek out fear for pleasure?" "Sometimes," Allison admitted. "Scary movies, thrilling rides, extreme sports. They all give us a rush of adrenaline without actual danger." It was the 4th day of cultural exchange, and the Federation Xenopsychology team had requested access to human entertainment to better understand their mental patterns. What they discovered disturbed them deeply. "Let me understand," Federation psychologist Ranbor said slowly. "Your species evolved on a world filled with genuine dangers, yet you create fictional dangers for recreation." "We have many types of entertainment," Allison explained patiently. "Not all of it involves fear or danger." She switched to a different video file showing a comedy film. The aliens watched in confusion as humans laughed at social misunderstandings and physical mishaps. "You find humor in failure and pain?" Ranbor asked. "When no one is actually hurt, yes," Steve Rodriguez chimed in from across the room. "Laughter is healthy for us. It releases tension." Zaxthul made notes on his data pad. The psychological profile of humans was becoming more complex by the hour. Not only had they adapted to survive extreme physical conditions, but they had developed mental coping mechanisms that seemed contradictory, finding pleasure in simulated fear and humor in simulated pain. Later that day, the diplomatic teams gathered in the conference room to discuss a formal alliance between Earth and the Galactic Federation. As Lisa Freeman outlined humanity's proposal, Zax Thule noticed how the other Federation representatives watched her with a mixture of fear and fascination. Earth offers its expertise in adaptation to extreme environments, Lisa was saying. Our people could help establish colonies on worlds previously considered too hostile for settlement. Velnax leaned forward. And in return, access to Federation technology and cultural exchange, Lisa replied. Peaceful cooperation for mutual benefit. Jack Miller added, We've survived on our Deathworld for thousands of years. We've learned a few tricks that might help others. The meeting continued with discussions of trade and diplomatic protocols. During a brief recess, Zax Thule approached Karen Wright, who had become something of a friend over the past few days. May I ask you something personal? He inquired. Karen nodded. Of course. How do you cope with knowing you live on a world that could kill you in countless ways? The tectonic instability alone would give most Federation species constant anxiety. Karen looked surprised by the question. I've never really thought about it that way. Earth is just home. Yes, earthquakes happen, but not constantly. Same with hurricanes, volcanoes, and other natural disasters. But the uncertainty, Zax Thule pressed. How do you handle not knowing when these events will occur? We prepare as best we can, Karen said after a moment's thought. Early warning systems, emergency supplies, evacuation plans. But mostly we just live our lives. Worrying about every possible danger would be paralyzing. Zax Thule considered this. So you've developed psychological resilience alongside physical adaptations. I suppose so, Karen agreed. Humans are pretty good at adapting to whatever situation we find ourselves in. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion from the adjoining room. They entered to find Greg Peterson, the ship's security chief, demonstrating self-defense techniques to several fascinated and horrified Federation security personnel. This is a basic joint lock, Greg explained, carefully positioning his hands on a volunteer's arm. It uses leverage rather than strength, though strength helps. The Federation security officers watched with professional interest, even as their bodies tensed with instinctive fear. The casual way the human discussed techniques for subduing opponents was unsettling. Your species has developed methods specifically for combat against other humans? Velnax asked. Greg nodded. Thousands of different martial arts systems across our planet's history. Some for sport, some for self-defense, some for military applications. But why? One Federation officer asked. Surely once you developed weapons, physical combat became obsolete. Hand-to-hand combat is still taught to military and police forces, Greg explained. You can't always use weapons, especially in civilian environments. Plus, the discipline and physical conditioning are valuable. Zax Thule observed the demonstration with growing understanding. Humans hadn't just adapted to their planet's natural threats. They had adapted to threats from each other as well. The implications were troubling. That evening, Federation psychologists gathered to compare notes on their human observations. Ranbor displayed a complex neural mapping on the main screen. Their brains show unusual patterns, he explained to the group. Where most sentient species would develop severe trauma responses to constant environmental threats, humans have evolved adaptive coping mechanisms. Like their strange entertainment, Mexipora suggested. Exactly, Ranbor agreed. They use fiction to process fear in controlled doses. They use humor to diffuse tension. And most remarkably, they've developed complex social bonding to ensure group survival. Zax Thule added, Did you notice during yesterday's emergency how they organized without explicit instructions? Each person assumed a role almost instinctively. Their social cohesion appears to be another adaptation to their death world, Ranbor concluded. Facing constant threats required cooperation for survival. Meanwhile, on the human vessel, Lisa and her officers were having their own discussion about their alien visitors. They seemed terrified of everything, Jack observed. I mentioned hiking to Mexipora, and she looked like I'd suggested swimming in lava. Their worlds are safer than ours, Lisa reminded him. They haven't needed to develop the same adaptations. Should we be concerned? Karen asked. They clearly find us frightening. Lisa considered this. We need to be mindful of how we come across. What seems normal to us may appear threatening to them. I think Zaxathul is genuinely trying to understand us, Karen said. He asks thoughtful questions. Let's focus on finding common ground, Lisa decided. Tomorrow let's show them human art, music, literature, the parts of our culture that reveal our creativity, not just our survival instincts. As the earth rotated below them, Zaxathul stood alone in his quarters, recording his final notes for the day. The psychological resilience of humans may be their most remarkable adaptation to their Class 14 Deathworld. They have not merely survived the constant threats of their environment, they have developed the ability to find beauty, humor, and meaning despite those threats. Perhaps most astonishing of all, they create fictional dangers when real ones are absent, as if their minds require a certain level of challenge to function optimally. He paused, considering his next words carefully. I begin to wonder if the Federation's classification system needs revision. Perhaps what makes a world deadly is not merely its physical challenges, but whether its inhabitants perceive those challenges as insurmountable. By that standard, humans may be the most adaptive species we have ever encountered. The Grand Hall of the Celestial Explorer buzzed with activity as Federation officials in formal attire mingled with the human delegation. Today marked the official ceremony welcoming Earth into the Galactic Federation, and the atmosphere was tense with excitement and lingering apprehension. Zaxathul adjusted his ceremonial robe, now comfortable enough around humans to forego his environmental suit. 5 days of intensive study had convinced the xenobiology team that while human microbes could cause issues for unprepared alien immune systems, brief exposure was manageable with proper medical protocols. Quite a turnout, Karen Wright remarked, approaching him with a glass of water. I didn't realize our admission was such a big event. The addition of a Class 14 Deathworld species is unprecedented, Zaxathul explained. Many Federation races are here simply to see humans with their own eyes. Across the room, 3 tall reptilian beings with armored scales watched the humans with obvious displeasure. Their rigid postures and narrowed eyes suggested hostility. Who are they? Karen asked quietly. Draconians, Zaxathul whispered. A militaristic species from a Class 9 world. Until now, they were considered the most physically formidable members of the Federation. They don't look happy to see us. They're not. Your existence challenges their position in the galactic hierarchy. Before Karen could respond, the Federation President Orntal approached the central platform. Silence fell over the gathering. Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Federation, the elderly alien began, voice amplified by unseen technology. Today we welcome the newest members of our interstellar community, humans from the planet Earth. Polite applause followed, though the Draconians remained motionless. The addition of Earth represents a historic moment, Orntal continued. Never before has a Class 14 Deathworld species achieved spaceflight and joined our ranks. On the viewing screens around the hall, images of Earth appeared, towering mountains, vast oceans, dense forests, and sprawling cities. Then came footage of natural disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and lightning storms. Many aliens flinched at the displays of Earth's raw power. Senior xenobiologist Zaxathul will now present his official findings on human classification, Orntal announced. Zaxathul moved to the platform, his datapad in hand. He took a moment to gather his thoughts before beginning. Esteemed colleagues, my team has completed our preliminary assessment of humans and their homeworld. Our findings confirm Earth's Class 14 Deathworld status based on multiple criteria: extreme tectonic activity, severe weather patterns, high gravity, robust microbial presence, dangerous fauna, varied toxins and pathogens, and radiation exposure. Murmurs spread through the alien crowd. However, Zaxathul continued, our classification system fails to capture what makes humans truly remarkable. It is not merely that they survived on a world that would kill most of us within minutes. It is how they thrived there. He displayed biological scans of human physiology. Humans possess extraordinary physical adaptations: dense musculature, reinforced skeletal structures, efficient respiratory and circulatory systems, and remarkable regenerative capabilities. They can survive injuries that would be fatal to most Federation species. Next, he showed brain scans and psychological profiles. Even more impressive are their psychological adaptations. Humans have developed mental resilience that allows them not only to endure constant environmental threats, but to find meaning and beauty despite them. They create art, music, literature, and philosophy in conditions that would traumatize most sentient beings. Zaxthul paused, looking directly at the Draconian delegation. Some may view humans with fear because of their physical capabilities. I suggest a different perspective. Humans evolved not as conquerors, but as survivors. Their history shows that when faced with adversity, they band together. Their strongest instinct is not domination but cooperation. Lisa Freeman joined Zaxthul on the platform to present Earth's formal application for Federation membership. Her simple blue uniform stood in stark contrast to the elaborate garments of the alien officials. "The people of Earth come in peace," she stated clearly. "We offer our unique perspective as inhabitants of a challenging world. Our experience with adaptation and resilience could benefit the entire Federation, particularly in colonizing worlds previously considered too hostile." Orntal accepted the digital treaty. "And what does Earth seek in return?" "Knowledge," Lisa replied simply. "The chance to learn from older civilizations, to be part of something greater than ourselves." After the formal exchange, the hall erupted in conversations. Many Federation representatives approached the humans with curious questions, while others maintained a cautious distance. The Draconian leader, General Krastor, confronted Lisa directly. His translator conveyed his rumbling voice. "Your kind are dangerous," he stated flatly. "Too unpredictable, too resilient." Lisa met his gaze steadily. "We've learned that resilience doesn't have to mean aggression. Strength can protect as well as threaten." "Pretty words," Krastor replied. "But we will be watching Earth carefully." "As is your right," Lisa responded diplomatically. "We hope to earn your trust over time." The general departed with his entourage, but not before casting a final wary glance at the human delegation. Later, as the formal reception continued, Zaxthul found a quiet moment with Karen near a viewport overlooking Earth. "I've been authorized to establish the first permanent xenobiology research station on your planet," he told her. "With your permission, of course." Karen smiled. "I'm sure Earth's governments will approve. Where would you like to set it up?" "Somewhere with varied biomes," Zaxthul replied. "We have much to learn about how life adapts to extreme conditions." "Will you be staying?" Karen asked. "As lead researcher, yes." He hesitated. "Though I admit, the thought is still somewhat terrifying." Karen laughed softly. "You'll adapt. That's what intelligent life does, right?" As the celebration continued around them, Commander Lisa Freeman joined Jack Miller near another viewport. Earth rotated slowly below them, beautiful and deadly and home. "Did you notice?" Jack asked quietly. "When Krastor confronted you, 3 other Federation species moved closer to us. I think we're already making allies." "And at least one powerful enemy," Lisa observed. "Unavoidable," Jack replied with a shrug. "But did you see the Draconians' reaction when Ben lifted that support beam yesterday? They recognize a physical threat when they see one." "We're not here to threaten anyone," Lisa reminded him. "No, but our reputation as Deathworlders might deter aggression. Sometimes respect comes from strength." As the formal ceremony concluded, Zaxthul made his final log entry of the official First Contact mission. Earth's integration into the Galactic Federation begins a new chapter in interstellar relations. The addition of a Class 14 Deathworld species will undoubtedly cause significant shifts in power dynamics and cultural exchange. He paused, watching as the human delegation said their goodbyes to various Federation representatives. "What most impresses me about humans is not their physical capabilities, though those are remarkable, It is their capacity for kindness despite evolving in such a hostile environment. A species that by all rights should have become merciless predators instead developed art, philosophy, and a desire to reach out to the stars. Zax Thule closed his log and prepared to board the EAS Horizon. As Earth's first Federation liaison, he would return with the humans to help establish formal diplomatic ties. The thought of actually setting foot on a Class 14 Deathworld still terrified him, but his scientific curiosity was stronger than his fear. As he looked once more at the beautiful blue planet, Zax Thule wondered what other surprises these remarkable Deathworlders would bring to the galaxy. Whatever happened next, the universe would never be quite the same now that humans had joined the interstellar community.